When people first meet me, they just see the obvious, like my wheelchair and my spasticity. Most people doesn't realize that I am fully capable of understanding and conversing with them.
When I don't have the tools I need to communicate or access information, I just become more dependent on other people. That is excluding and alienating because it makes me other. And that leads to isolation and being treated differently, which is often not being treated equitably. If you're treated differently, you are inherently not being treated equitably.
$61 million adults in the United States live with a disability. That's 26% of adults, or 1 in every 4 adults in the United States who have some type of disability. These disabilities can include an individual's ability to communicate. At least 1 in 6 Americans has or will have a sensory or communication disability in their lifetime. Limited access to effective communication can lead many people with disabilities to feel socially isolated, have limited success in school or on the job, and have unmet health needs. In fact, 1 in 3 adults with disabilities 18 to 44 years old have an unmet healthcare need because of cost.
I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to a medical setting or to a hospital and they've asked me, how are we going to communicate with you? Can you bring a friend? Can you bring a relative? Why would they expect that a friend or a relative would be competent enough to interpret medical information treatment in sign language for me? My name is Linda Drattel. I'm late deafened. I lost my hearing starting in my early 30s, and then it progressed to the point where now I am deaf.
My name is Tim Jin and I have cerebral palsy, and I am a board member for Ability Central. If you haven't noticed already, I am communicating on a communication device on the base of my wheelchair and use my feet to type.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Michelle Yuk. I am hard of hearing. I was born in South Korea, and my family moved to the United States in 1992. When my family moved to the US, English became my second language and American Sign Language became my third.
My name is Jennifer Restel. I am a blind woman with a lot of chronic health issues. Sometimes people have a lot of trouble understanding what a barrier to communication or information access looks like. These barriers are so hard for people to wrap their heads around individually that collectively, it's just almost impossible for somebody to see the equivalent between a deaf person not getting ASL and a person who uses AAC not being able to get somebody to just spend the time to read their words. I don't think people understand that those are actually really similar.
When I don't have access to sign language interpreters or captioning services, I feel lost, and it's really confusing. I don't feel connected to the other people around me, and I feel very alone.
Imagine if someone taped your mouth shut or tied up your hands. You wouldn't be heard or wouldn't be able to any sign language to communicate. I feel the same way when I don't have any of my devices. I don't like to be left out of any conversation that I choose to be in.
Silence can be a prison. I know that from 3 decades working around the world to support our fundamental human right to communicate. My name is Matt Cherry. My twin daughters, Lyra and Sophia, were diagnosed with autism and sensory processing disorders that make it very hard for them to communicate. They are silenced, confined, and isolated by barriers to communication. not just by their own difficulty in expressing themselves, but by our society's failure to accommodate them.
I've used the term functionally equivalent access. This is the psych word, functionally equivalent access. What it means is that we should have the same exact access to communication services as anybody else.
Communication is absolutely fundamental to our lives. Communication is how we navigate society. In fact, a common definition of society is a group of individuals connected by communication. Yet for people with communication disabilities, our society's ways of communicating create barriers instead of connections. That's why I am proud to work as a Director of Philanthropy at Ability Central. Ability Central works to ensure that people with disabilities can exercise their right to communicate and access information.
Hi y'all, I'm Jessie Galloway, Associate Program Officer at Ability Central Philanthropy. As a person with disabilities that has a sister with disabilities, I am passionate about working in philanthropy to direct funds supporting our communities. Yes, we're a funder, but we're also an educator, convener, and resource.
We are the only foundation I know of that works exclusively on the issue of communication disabilities, all communication disabilities, and only communication disabilities.
In 2020 and 2021, Ability Central Philanthropy funded projects that directly reached 56,139 people with disabilities, 5,823 disability professionals, and 14,476 family members of people with disabilities. Thanks to the amazing work of our grantees, Ability Central was able to serve 181% more people with disabilities in our last grant cycle. Our individual project grants averaged just over $58,000. Since 2010, Ability Central has granted more than $11.5 million, impacting more than 500,000 people with disabilities.
One moment at Ability Central that stands out for me. I was on my first site visit alone at an Easter Seals Day Center, and the television was extremely loud playing baseball. Our grantee was customizing speech-generating devices for folks to mount on their wheelchairs. I watched as a man that had just turned 40 years old the day before was outfitted with his first device. And that's when we all heard him speak his very first sentence. He typed, "I don't like baseball." Can you imagine how long he'd wanted to say, "Turn the damn channel"? Everyone can communicate.
My daughter's experience showed me we have to do much, much more to end this silence. We have to help people access their right to communicate, regardless of their disability.
I'm on many boards and committees, nationally and in the state of California. I've seen real-life results from the foundation that has impacted the disabled community for the better.
I think Ability Central, especially the website, has a really huge role in changing things.
We're reaching out to provide that functionally equivalent access to people of all disabilities so that we are able to enjoy the highest quality of life that we can.
I have the right to communicate.
I have the right to communicate and access information.
I have the right to be taught to communicate.
I have the right to communicate and access information.
I have the right to be listened to.
Functionally equivalent access to communication services and information is my right.
I can communicate.
I can communicate.
I can communicate, it just doesn't always look the way people expect it to look.
We need to listen more to those who are heard the least. We need to help them amplify their voices. We need to fight for their right not to remain silent. And we need your help. Let's connect and communicate. Let's work together to end the silence.